David Goggins was born on February 17, 1975, in Buffalo, New York, into a life that would test the limits of human endurance long before he ever chose to test himself. His earliest memories were not of safety or warmth, but of fear, violence, and unpredictability. His father was abusive, brutally so, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Home was not a refuge. It was a battlefield. Every day carried the threat of violence, and every night carried the anxiety of what might come next. As a child, David lived in constant survival mode. His nervous system never rested. He learned to stay alert, to read moods, to anticipate danger. Fear shaped his identity before confidence ever had a chance to form. The abuse was relentless, and the trauma was deep. Long hours of forced labor at his father's skating rink replaced childhood innocence. Cleaning toilets, scrubbing floors, and working late into the night became normal for a boy who should have been playing outside. School offered no escape. David struggled severely with learning. He couldn't read properly, couldn't focus, and fell behind academically. Teachers misunderstood him. Classmates mocked him. Labels like slow and stupid followed him everywhere. Over time, he internalized those labels. He began to believe that he was broken, defective, and incapable of success. When his mother finally escaped the abusive household and moved with David to Indiana, the physical violence ended, but the psychological damage remained. Trauma doesn't disappear when the danger is gone. It settles into the mind. David carried anger, shame, and self-hatred into adolescence. He felt different, isolated, inferior. Food became his coping mechanism. Comfort replaced control. By his late teens, David Goggins was nearly 300 pounds. Obese, depressed, and directionless. He worked as an exterminator, killing cockroaches in filthy buildings, wearing heavy protective gear, sweating, exhausted, ashamed. Each day felt like a reminder of how far he had fallen and how little he believed in himself. He avoided mirrors. He avoided people. He avoided responsibility. Deep down, he believed his life was already over. Then one night, sitting alone, flipping through television channels, David saw something that changed everything. A documentary about Navy SEAL training. Men pushing past exhaustion. Men suffering in freezing water. Men refusing to quit. Something inside him snapped. Not hope. Not inspiration. Anger. Anger at his past. Anger at his weight. Anger at the man he had become. For the first time, David took full ownership of his life. No more blaming his father. No more blaming his childhood. No more excuses. He looked at himself and made a brutal decision. I am responsible for who I am. That night, David Goggins decided he would become a Navy SEAL, despite every logical reason why he couldn't. He had 3 months to lose over 100 pounds just to qualify. What followed was not motivation. It was war. He ran every day, destroying his joints, lungs burning, asthma attacking his chest. He trained multiple times a day. He suffered. He bled. He vomited. He kept going. Pain became routine. Discomfort became normal. Excuses disappeared. In 3 months, David lost over 100 pounds. For the first time in his life, he proved something impossible to himself. But the real test was still ahead. After losing more than 100 pounds in less than 3 months, David Goggins believed the hardest part was behind him. He was wrong. The physical transformation was only the entry fee. The real cost would be paid in pain, failure, and humiliation. When he arrived for Navy SEAL training, he was still an outsider, mentally scarred, academically behind, and physically unrefined compared to the elite athletes around him. The instructors didn't care about his backstory. They cared about results. Almost immediately, David struggled. His body, though lighter, was still fragile. His bones weren't conditioned for the relentless pounding. His lungs fought against him due to severe asthma. His mind, shaped by years of trauma, defaulted to self-doubt. Every evolution exposed his weaknesses. Every run reminded him that he didn't belong, at least not yet. Then came Hell Week. Hell Week is designed to break men. 5.5 days, almost no sleep, constant cold exposure. endless physical punishment. It's not about strength, it's about who quits first. David entered Hell Week determined not to ring the bell. But pain doesn't negotiate. His body began to fail. His legs swelled. Stress fractures formed. His immune system collapsed. Eventually, the instructors pulled him out. Failure. For most people, that would have been the end of the story. One attempt. One dream crushed. A clean excuse to quit forever. David returned home physically broken and mentally destroyed. He gained weight again. Depression crept back in. That familiar voice returned. The one that said, "This is all you are." But something had changed. He had tasted discomfort and survived it. Instead of quitting, David made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He stopped chasing motivation and started building discipline. Motivation fades. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. He trained when tired. He trained when injured. He trained when depressed. Not because he felt like it, but because he said he would. He went back. Second attempt at SEAL training. This time he lasted longer. This time he understood the game. He understood that pain was temporary, but quitting was permanent. He learned how instructors attacked the mind before the body. He learned how doubt spreads like infection. He learned to stay quiet, focused, isolated inside his own head. But it wasn't enough. Another injury. Another medical pull. Another failure. 2 attempts. 0 results. By now, the odds were brutally clear. His body wasn't built for this. His history worked against him. His peers advanced while he restarted. Anyone watching would have told him to move on. David Goggins refused. He went back a 3rd time. By this point, his training wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare. He learned to break moments into seconds. He learned to suffer without reacting. He learned that the mind quits long before the body does. He stopped negotiating with himself. There were no internal conversations anymore, only commands. During Hell Week, when his body screamed to stop, David did something radical. He welcomed the pain. He told himself that this was the price of becoming uncommon. That every second of suffering was a deposit into a future that most people would never touch. This time he didn't quit. This time he didn't break. David Goggins became a Navy SEAL. But the transformation didn't end there. Becoming a SEAL didn't cure his past. It sharpened him. Combat deployments followed. War zones. Chaos. Responsibility. Death. Leadership under pressure. The battlefield revealed something even deeper. David wasn't just surviving pain anymore. He was mastering it. Still, his body paid the price. Years of abuse, self-inflicted and operational, destroyed his knees. Doctors warned him. Surgeries followed. Chronic pain became constant. Retirement loomed. Once again, life offered him an exit ramp. Instead, David found a new battlefield. Endurance. Running started as rehab. Slow, painful miles. Then longer ones. Then impossible distances. He entered his first ultramarathon with almost no preparation. A 100-mile race. His body wasn't ready. His kidneys began to fail. His feet blistered beyond recognition. He started urinating blood. Doctors begged him to stop. David refused. He finished. Not because he was strong, but because he was willing to suffer longer than anyone else. That race unlocked something dangerous and powerful. He realized endurance wasn't about speed or genetics. It was about tolerance for discomfort. It was about refusing to quit when quitting made sense. From that moment forward, David Goggins chased pain intentionally, not out of self-hatred, but out of self-mastery. He ran race after race, 100 miles, 200 miles, in extreme heat, on broken legs, with torn muscles. Every event pushed him closer to death, and deeper into himself. He broke records, not because he was the fastest, but because he never stopped. One challenge nearly killed him. During a pull-up record attempt, David pushed his body beyond collapse. His organs began to shut down. He was hospitalized. Doctors told him he had gone too far. David listened. Then he went further. What emerged wasn't an athlete, it was a philosophy. David began articulating what he had lived his entire life. that most people operate at 40% of their potential, that the mind creates limits long before the body reaches them, that suffering, when chosen, builds resilience that comfort never can. He wrote it all down. Can't hurt me. The book wasn't polished. It wasn't gentle. It was raw, confrontational, and brutally honest. And it exploded. Millions of copies sold. Podcasts followed. Doctors warned him. Surgeries followed. Chronic pain became constant. Retirement loomed. Once again, life offered him an exit ramp. Instead, David found a new battlefield. Endurance. Running started as rehab. Slow, painful miles. Then longer ones. Then impossible distances. He entered his first ultramarathon with almost no preparation. A 100-mile race. His body wasn't ready. His kidneys began to fail. His feet blistered beyond recognition. He started urinating blood. Doctors begged him to stop. David refused. He finished. Not because he was strong, but because he was willing to suffer longer than anyone else. That race unlocked something dangerous and powerful. He realized endurance wasn't about speed or genetics. It was about tolerance for discomfort. It was about refusing to quit when quitting made sense. From that moment forward, David Goggins chased pain intentionally, not out of self-hatred, but out of self-mastery. He ran race after race, 100 miles, 200 miles, in extreme heat, on broken legs, with torn muscles. Every event pushed him closer to death, and deeper into himself. He broke records, not because he was the fastest, but because he never stopped. One challenge nearly killed him. During a pull-up record attempt, David pushed his body beyond collapse. His organs began to shut down. He was hospitalized. Doctors told him he had gone too far. David listened. Then he went further. What emerged wasn't an athlete, it was a philosophy. David began articulating what he had lived his entire life. That most people operate at 40% of their potential. That the mind creates limits long before the body reaches them. That suffering, when chosen, builds resilience that comfort never can. He wrote it all down. Can't hurt me. The book wasn't polished. It wasn't gentle. It was raw, confrontational, and brutally honest. And it exploded. Millions of copies sold. Podcasts followed. Interviews. Speaking engagements. David Goggins became a global symbol of mental toughness. But he rejected the label of motivation. I don't motivate people, he said. I tell them the truth. That truth wasn't easy. It demanded accountability. It demanded discomfort. It demanded sacrifice. And that's why it resonated, especially in the United States, where comfort had become normal and suffering had become optional. Today, David Goggins continues to train like his life depends on it. He wakes before dawn. He runs in silence. He embraces suffering daily, not to escape pain, but to stay sharp. He doesn't chase happiness. He chases growth. His past didn't disappear. He conquered it. And his message remains unchanged. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are capable of far more than you think, if you're willing to suffer for it. As David Goggins' name spread across America, something unusual happened. People didn't just admire him, they felt exposed by him. His message wasn't comfortable. He didn't sell shortcuts, positivity, or balance. He sold accountability. He forced people to confront the version of themselves they were avoiding. And that made him powerful and controversial. When Can't Hurt Me exploded in popularity, it wasn't because of marketing or celebrity endorsements. It spread through word of mouth. Veterans passed it to recruits. Athletes passed it to teammates. Entrepreneurs passed it to burned-out founders. Prison inmates read it. CEOs listened to it on flights. Teachers assigned it. Parents argued about it. The book became a mirror, and not everyone liked what they saw. David Goggins didn't soften his message as his platform grew. If anything, he doubled down. On podcasts watched by millions, he rejected the idea of self-love without self-discipline. He criticized comfort culture. He challenged the obsession with motivation and inspiration, insisting that both were useless without action. He spoke openly about his own flaws, anger, and darkness, not to glorify them, but to prove they could be controlled. Critics accused him of promoting toxic masculinity, self-harm, and extremism. They said his approach was dangerous. They said his lifestyle was unsustainable. They said he was broken. David didn't argue. He trained. He ran. He woke up at 3 a.m. He lived the answer. Behind the scenes, his life was far from glamorous. He traveled constantly, often alone. He stayed disciplined even when no one was watching. Fame didn't slow him down. Money didn't soften him. He didn't pivot into comfort. He didn't become a brand mascot. He didn't sell courses promising easy success. Instead, he lived exactly as he preached, often to his own physical detriment. His knees deteriorated further. His joints screamed daily. Chronic pain became permanent. Doctors repeatedly warned him that his body would not hold forever. Each warning was the same conversation he'd heard his entire life. You can't. And every time, David responded the same way. Watch me. In his second book, Never Finished, David revealed what many fans didn't expect. That conquering weakness doesn't end. That discipline isn't a destination. That even after becoming an icon, the same internal battles remain. The same laziness tries to creep in. The same excuses whisper. The same demons wait patiently. The difference now was awareness. David no longer believed in arrival. There was no finish line, no moment of rest, no final victory, only the daily decision to show up, suffer intentionally, and stay sharp. He called it staying in the fight. What made David Goggins resonate so deeply in the United States wasn't just his toughness. It was his honesty about America itself. He spoke directly to a culture drowning in comfort, convenience, and distraction. He challenged the idea that happiness was the goal. He reframed suffering as a tool, not a curse. He reminded people that freedom, real freedom, comes from mastery over the self. Veterans saw him as one of their own. Athletes saw him as a standard. Ordinary people saw him as proof that the past doesn't define the future. Abuse survivors saw survival turned into strength. Overweight kids saw transformation without excuses. Failures saw redemption without permission. David Goggins didn't represent perfection. He represented possibility. Today, David continues to live largely off social media. He posts sparingly. When he does, it's usually raw, sweaty runs, silent suffering, blunt captions. No filters, no hype, no smiles for the camera. His presence feels less like entertainment and more like a challenge. He doesn't ask followers to like him. He asks them to work. His legacy is already cemented. Not in medals, records, or book sales, but in the lives changed quietly, anonymously, away from cameras. People who stopped quitting. People who stayed when it hurt. People who did the hard thing when no one was watching. David Goggins didn't escape pain. He mastered it. He didn't outrun his past. He carried it and used it as fuel. And his story leaves America with an uncomfortable but undeniable truth. You don't need a new life. You need a harder mindset, because the limits you fear aren't real. The pain you avoid is temporary, and the strength you're looking for already exists. On the other side of discomfort, David Goggins isn't done. And neither are you. David Goggins didn't escape pain. He mastered it. He didn't outrun his past. He carried it and used it as fuel. And his story leaves America with an uncomfortable but undeniable truth. You don't need a new life. You need a harder mindset, because the limits you fear aren't real. The pain you avoid is temporary, and the strength you're looking for already exists on the other side of discomfort. If you want to see more stories like this, real journeys from struggle to success, and lessons from the most unstoppable people in the world, subscribe to Millions Monthly. Every video is designed to inspire, challenge, and push you to become the best version of yourself. David Goggins isn't done, and neither are you. Join us on Millions Monthly and start unlocking your full potential today.